Hey everybody, another day back here in the garage. Pretty excited to be doing this after a little hiatus this weekend. Wasn't really a hot rod hiatus. If you haven't checked out my last video, go pull it up. I spent the weekend over at my parents' house and got to wrench on some of my dad's cars and then pulled my Nova out of storage. It was a really good time. And it was good to see my parents for a little bit. But I'm back here today at my house, back in my garage. I'm going to do a little bit of work. As you can see, my workbench is littered with parts, carburetors that need rebuilt, lots of little stuff to button up on the car. But I want to get it done because honestly, I'm just about ready to swing this body back over, set it on the frame and chassis and just bolt it down. I think I'm about ready to do that. But I got a bunch of little stuff to tie up first. First thing, starter question. Any of you experts out there knowing the difference between earlier and later model small block Chevys? Let me give you a quick background. That engine, later model small block Chevy, they call it the L31 code. It's a Vortec engine, and so it's a right-hand dipstick, one-piece rear main seal, hydraulic roller camshaft block, larger flywheel. Here's my question for you. It has to do with starters. This is the starter that came off that engine. This is the chrome starter that I bought at a swap meet. By the way, I paid 20 bucks for a brand new chrome starter for a small block Chevy. My dad saw that. We were at the swap meet together, and I walked up carrying it, and he shook his head and said, "You gonna be able to sleep tonight?" I just say, hey, I got a real good deal. I helped the guy out. He obviously wanted to get rid of it. But here's my question for you. Okay, back to the question. Tech-wise, will this starter work on that engine? And I ask because I know there's differences between the 168 and the 153 tooth flywheels, or ring gear as some of you guys might call them, flex plate to be more accurate, I think. And I don't know I don't know. I mean, obviously the difference, right? 15 teeth, thanks. But I don't know whether one starter will work on one, not the other. There's one way to find out. Bolt them up, give them a shot. I was digging around. I don't have any starter shims. Otherwise, I was going to just bolt it up and shim a starter, and then when we go to crank, find out then. But anyway, if you know that, do me a favor. Put a comment down below. Okay, let's get started on what I want to work on today. Again, I got all this dress up and stuff that I need to get working on the old car, but I hadn't been getting to it. I just haven't made the time. So today we're going to make it happen. So first thing, starters. I need a dipstick. This motor came out of a Chevy or GMC Express van. I think it's like a year 2000, 99, 2000, 2001, something like that. So the dipstick that I have, actually I had somewhere around here a hot rod style chrome dipstick, but it was the wrong size. It didn't fit the tube hole. So here's what I got. I was able to actually get the dipstick that came off the van. So you can see here, just a little bit of finagling. We'll just shove that guy in. That's probably not that big of a deal, huh? We'll leave it like that. I'm just kidding. That's a disaster. I wouldn't do that. But there's my dilemma. The stock one obviously looks hideous. Worked well on a van, not so good on a Model A. So I've got to do a little bit of figuring, some measuring, some cutting, and we'll see if we can get this plugged in. Okay, let's see what we're working with here on the dipsticks. Get a sanity check. Of course, by the time you guys watch this, I'll be done with this project. But tell me what you would do. That big long van dipstick actually separates. Probably a design so they could use that on truck engines and extend that for the van or whatever. And if you look, the dipstick itself has these rivets right here. I bet I could grind those rivets, pop that loose, and this would fit perfectly in this and work. Here's what I have that I want to use though. This chrome style one. Now this is almost the same diameter as this down here, but it just doesn't want to fit in the block. You can see right there when I try to shove it in, it goes a little ways and stops. I think Well, let me show you what else I got here. So if I use this option, I end out with this yellow thing, which looks like it came off of a 90s van, and not my old, you know, just simple hot rod style chrome dipstick. So I don't want to use that if I can help it. What I could do, since this style is just smooth at the top, there's no, it's not like this one where it comes out and flared out and has a different diameter. I could just use this tube, chop it, stuff this dipstick down and chop off the end down there and, you know, get some good measurements so that it's right. That's a pretty good option. Honestly, the one I might go with. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with that option. Just cut that one off, shove that dipstick down there, cut it off at the right length. All I got to do is measure the right distances. So I'm going to give that a whirl, clean that up, probably put a little paint on it, and yeah, we'll go with that. Okay, let me show you what we've got. What I've got is a mess. Let me show you what I got here as far as some measurements go and how I plan on doing this. Okay, so the original dipstick is here, full length with the dipstick inserted in the tube. What is important to me is from where this spot to where it shoves into the block, where my marks are, right? Where my add and full are. Okay, so I try to depict that here, from here to the add line, from here to the full line. I don't really care. This distance isn't going to change. I'm using that tube. I don't know why I thought that'd be important. Anyway, so I measured from here to the add line, there to the full line, using my bilingual ruler. What I came up with is 14.5 centimeters to the top, 17.25 to the bottom line. Centimeters for my Canadian friends. Hey, shout out to you guys. And then that's it. So now all I gotta do is when I whack this thing, cut it off there, stick the new chrome dipstick in, I just gotta trim it off, make those marks. What could possibly go wrong? Alright, update time. Let me show you where I got. While the paint was drying on the tube, dipstick tube that I cut off, I went ahead and took my chrome starter, bolted it up. It looks like everything lines up okay, and it doesn't need any shims. If you don't know how to shim a starter, technique I use, come in with an 1/8 inch drill bit. Anything an 1/8 inch in diameter would work. And you just come in here, and what you do is you find the distance between the shaft of the starter and the flex plate itself, right? So if that's the case, if this was my flex plate and that's my starter shaft, I would be measuring that distance right there. Okay, so basically I bolt it up, get it snug, and then come in underneath there and check that distance right there. And when I did it on the car, dead on, no shims required. Of course, if it's too close, put the shim on both. If it's too far away, you will shim the outside to bring it in closer to the flywheel. Technique only on that. Okay, back to the dipstick. I cut that tube as advertised, painted it, and then I took the dipstick itself, cut it off. I even put a couple of those little twists in it, and took my file and worked it over on my marks exactly on those metric distances as we measured. So there we go. Chrome dipstick handle hanging down low and out of the way. I'm glad I didn't have to build a mount way out here to mount my van dipstick on. But if you know anybody with a early 2000s GMC Express van that needs the top half of a dipstick tube or the dipstick itself, I'm your man. I've got it. Okay, moving on. What's next? Okay, kind of a fail, not that big of a deal. I got this real fancy chrome cover, torque converter, flywheel cover, bolts up to the transmission. Looks real pretty. Well, I laid it under the car with the bolts, lined it up, and well, I didn't line it up because it doesn't. It doesn't fit So I went and dug around and I found the nasty painted greasy spare, and it turns out it's exactly the same. It also does not fit. So I'm going without. Now, a little bit of investigation. That old nasty one came with this engine. And I know for sure this engine had a later model overdrive transmission in it, probably a 4L60E or 80E maybe even, doesn't matter. Not a Turbo 350. So that pan probably bolts to that transmission. And when I investigated, this pan is exactly like that one, but chrome. So I'm guessing it was for the wrong type of transmission. No big deal. I'll live without, not required. Let's talk more dipsticks. I need you guys' input on this. Well, actually, first, I'll show you. Scrounged around while I was at my parents' house. My dad had asked if he had any spare transmission dipsticks, and he did. A little shorty one for like inside a race car. So I got to looking at my rig here and figuring if I used it on this thing, it might work. But my problem is with the body on the car. Let me set it here. See if it'll stay. Come on now. There we go. With the body on the car, the flywheel sits, or I'm sorry, the firewall is about right here. So that would work, you know, a guy could do it, but the problem is with the engine running to check it, I'd have to get in like this, and I'm just not too excited about reaching underneath my headers while the engine's running to try to check the transmission fluid, or getting underneath the car to have to do it. So I'm just gonna have to bite the bullet, and I'm gonna have to just order a dipstick tube, a regular one that mounts, sticks up right here. No big deal, it's just a little bit of money. Last thing I need your help on before I wrap this up. Kickdown cable. What's your opinion? Put a comment down here. Here's why I ask. Turbo 350 has this little guy hiding down here. It's this, let me see if I can get in there where you can see it. It's this wire, hooks up to the kickdown cable, which it comes up here and in theory hooks up to the throttle linkage on the car, so that when you go full throttle, linkage pulls that wire, and it downshifts. It's your passing gear kick down. Based on my research, I don't think a guy needs it. I've heard that a transmission guy told somebody else, you do need it because it helps the pressures in the transmission and stuff. I don't know. I don't know about a Turbo 350. I've been running one on my other rigs for a long time not hooked up, and I don't know any difference. I know for like a 700 R4, the TV cable, absolutely necessary, and it has to be adjusted right. But on a Turbo 350, I just don't know. Because what I want to do is come down in. I might do it right. I might drop the pan, come in and find this wire and remove it. Or I might just pull it out, snip it, let it fall back down in the hole there a little ways. But I want to build myself a little cover that goes over that. Bolt it, seal it, done. Don't ever think about it. Because what I don't want to have to do is run a big old ugly cable up the back here and try to tie it in with my dual carb linkage. I got impatient. I just decided to go for it on this downshift cable for the passing gear on the car. I just sat there looking at it and said, you know what? I know there's not much oil in this transmission. It's easy to drop the pan. Although let me tell you, these Lakester headers, really good because I've hit my head on both sides. Not just one, but both sides getting up. So good for that. Okay, let me show you what we're dealing with. Here it is on the outside of the transmission, right? Here's what it is on the inside. Try to put a light on it. And you can see here what this guy does. Cable comes in, pulls this lever, pushes that valve in. I'm going to go off of the assumption that I don't need it. So I'm going to pull this clip, pull that little wire, take it out, and then save it. So inevitably when this thing doesn't work right, I can put it back in. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to figure out a way to plug that hole. There you go, in case anybody ever wondered what that looked like inside there. Because I don't know, automatic transmissions to me are like pure magic. There you go. Okay, this little guy's out. This piece of wire that went down in through the hole up here into the transmission. It's out. It used to grab this guy right here and pull this valve. I dropped it out. Now I'm just going to button the pan up. But there you go. You got a good look now of what that looks like and what the function of that wire is. In hindsight, I probably could have just pulled the wire out a little bit, clipped it, and let it fall back in here, and probably wouldn't have hurt anything. But that was probably the right way to do it. Alright, here's what we come up with right here. So remember, I'm trying to come up with something to plug that hole right there. So here's what I got. I just took a piece of flat strap, put a hole in it, actually put 2 holes in it. Welded in a cut off piece of 3/8 bolt I had laying around, and then a piece of tubing that's actually the top of that dipstick that we saw earlier. I just nipped it off, slid it on there, welded it on so it fits nice and snug down in that hole. I'll put a little silicone on it, drop it in there, put a 1/4 inch bolt on it, and forget about it. It won't leak. I just hope it works. I'll still be interested to see what you guys' thoughts are on whether that transmission will work right or not with that pulled. Oh well, we'll see. Okay, so there you go. You guys will have to tell me what you think. Put a comment about that. Put a comment about the starters. I'm going to keep this one handy in case I got to bolt it up on there. If anybody needs a real shiny... You know what? I do know who needs that. Anyway, whatever. That's done. Yeah. A little bit of work done today, I'm going to call it. So, time to wrap it up. Shut it down. Hey, thanks for everybody for watching my videos and subscribing. I really appreciate it. Share this with a buddy. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't done it already. Stick around. Watch some more. We're going to be back with more progress on the Model A. Thanks. Take care.